Hello and welcome to The Mental Traveler. I'm Caro and today I'll be talking about Gone Girl and why I prefer the movie version over the book. The book was published in 2012 by American author Gillian Flynn and the movie version was directed by David Fincher and stars Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, Neil Patrick Harris, among others. So it's this sort of police drama thriller. On the morning of Amy and Nick's son's 5-year wedding anniversary, Amy goes missing. She's this beautiful, talented, smart woman in her 30s, and her husband Nick is this handsome, slightly younger man. They met and married in New York City, and they were relatively happy, but then they're both fired from their jobs, and that leads Nick, among other things, to take Amy back to his hometown to take care of his sick mom. Once they're in Missouri, the relationship between Nick and Amy starts to deteriorate because neither of them can adapt to the new way of living. And then, after Amy goes missing, Nick immediately informs the police. But as the days go by, there are no clues as to Amy's whereabouts, and several things happened that lead everyone to believe that Nick was the one that murdered his wife. And as soon as the public and the readers believe that Nick should get death penalty for killing Amy, the author reveals to us that in fact Amy Dunn is alive. She faked her own death because she wants to incriminate her husband for murder in a sort of retaliation for everything that he's done that's made her unhappy in their marriage. There are several factors behind this drastic action, but the real appeal to this story is the fact that the reader or viewer were deceived by the author for more than half the book, and along the way we also learn a lot of Amy and Nick's past history so that we can shape in our minds a little bit better what led both characters to behave the way they did at the start of the book when Amy goes missing. I saw the movie first when it came out and I didn't really like it. I thought it was really well made and it had a good cast and it was refreshing in the sense that it surprised us all, but there was something in it that never really appealed to me the way it did to other people. But then we bought the book and I thought that I should give it a try and see what all the fuss was about to widen my horizons, because it's not the sort of book that I usually read. And there were moments when I was reading the novel where I couldn't remember for the life of me what was going to happen next because I hadn't watched the movie in more than a year. So that was a good experience while reading the book, that I couldn't remember exactly what was going to happen next. But then when I finished the book, I rewatched the movie and I prefer the movie version over the book, and here is why. I want to say the things that I like and dislike about both the book and the movie first, before I go into details as to why I prefer the film over the novel. But before I go into all of that, I want to state the fact that I think that for me, watching the movie before reading the book was a good thing, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I prefer it, because the book is really long, and since the book is not the sort of story that usually appeals to me, if I had read the novel first, I believe I wouldn't have finished it because I couldn't have sat through more than 300 pages of everyone believing that the husband was the killer, waiting to see if there was going to be a plot twist, not knowing that the plot twist was going to be good. But then, when we finally learn that Amy's alive and get to learn about her secret master plan, the story certainly starts to quicken, and there are chapters that only last, for example, 1 page long. Couldn't really enjoy it and thoroughly analyze everything that was happening, whereas the movie entertained me just for the right amount of time and cut out all the unnecessary details which I found in the book. But what I really like in Gone Girl is reading the relationship between Nick and Amy and how their marriage deteriorates, because I love toxic marriages. Stories where two married people who are supposed to love each other unconditionally end up doing these awful things to each other because of the circumstances. For example, Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, or Frank and April from Revolutionary Road. And in the end, watching or reading about Amy and Nick's marriage was really rewarding for me in this aspect. Their story is sort of a slap in the face of the institution of marriage and what it represents. And I enjoy the process that leads to married people asking or thinking, what have we done to each other? What will we do to each other? What are you thinking? What are you really feeling? And the story just goes on to prove that the veil that separates love and hatred is very thin. And another thing that I liked about Gone Girl was the fact that it left me thinking about why people get married. Everyone does it, everyone expects you to do it, the fear of being alone. And then that leads me to wonder, do we love the person we marry, or do we love the idea of what being with that person represents and what we can be with them by our side, and how selfish can we be when we are in a relationship. I believe that's it for the present. Thank you so much for watching this video of The Mental Traveler. Please leave me your comments. I want to hear from you all. By the way, in the description box, I'm going to post a link to the Goodreads page of the book of Gone Girl, as well as a link to the IMDb page of the movie version, and a link to the trailer. I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye.